Todd Zola Online Championship League today on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by WinBet. I'm Clay Link here with Todd Zola of RotoWire Masters Ball. Good to be on with you, Todd. And I know the Beat Todd Zola draft is in the book, so looking forward to talking with you about that. And happy Tout Wars weekend to those who celebrate. I know you're work behind the scenes, and should be a fun weekend with Tout Wars.
I sure hope so. It'd be funner if we were live in New York City, but we'll make do the best that we can. Covered on SiriusXM. We'll also have our own public Zoom. I think you're moderating one of the public Zooms.
Yeah, tomorrow.
So it's going to be should be a fun weekend. Fortunately, most of the moves have gone down. We got till 9 p.m. before each respective draft, before we close off the player pool. Right now, it's Story and Correa are the main ones, and what we decided to do was make them legal in both leagues, NL and AL. And even if the player signs in the other league, you're keeping his stats. So fortunately, it's only a handful at this point. It's not going to skew things too much, but there's no risk. You know, they go for what they're probably going to go for wherever they actually do sign. And when that extra money gets distributed over the rest of the playing pool, it really doesn't mess things up for the viewing public. So that's what we decided to do. We caught a break. It's baseball, and we're ready to go. Well, Kenley Jansen, I suppose, is a biggie.
There's a few pieces still out there, but it seems like a lot of them have settled this week. I know most of the starting pitching is pretty much dried up. I was looking at who the free agent starting pitchers were. It's like Michael Pineda and Johnny Cueto now, with Danny Duffy signing, and Matt Boyd signed with the Giants. So
there's some potential trades, but no, you're right. The pitching, at least is starting to dry up considerably. There's just a couple of straggling hitters that'll find homes sooner than later.
Yeah, so there are a couple mystery teams in on Trevor's story today. I think that was a John Heyman tweet. So, the rare dual mystery team situation. I'm excited to see where he ends up. Maybe we'll get an answer to that during the show.
It'd be nice.
Unlikely, but that'd be fun.
It'd be nice.
We'll be keeping an eye on Twitter for that. Earlier today, Luke Voit shipped to San Diego. So seemed like this was probable, given that they brought back Anthony Rizzo and they brought in Gio Urshela and others. So it seemed like the writing was on the wall for Luke Voit to be moved out of New York. And he was the 2020 home run leader, had 22 in that short season. Just 11 last year in 68 games. But in a much less crowded situation now, you have to feel a lot better about his playing time.
Right. DH is open in San Diego, could play a little bit in the field, although they've got the future Hall of Famer Eric Hosmer taking up that spot. So we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, no, it's and if you took a chance on Voit, I mean, you're happy that he has regular playing time. Maybe you hoped it was in a different park, but I think for the price that you paid, you're probably okay with it.
And by the way, with Tatis Jr., I think we both have him outside our top 100 now that he's out for 3 months, most likely.
Yeah.
Be sure to check out the RotoWire Roundtable ranks this weekend. Circle back and see where we all have him, because it feels like they'll probably be all over the map with rankings on Tatis.
Probably, and
not necessarily with us, but just around the industry.
In general, it depends upon how much you put credence into backfilling. I mean, if you take his stats and you throw them in a calculator and they spit out a certain number which you put to a rank, you are going to use someone on his spot in the roster spot, which you pay for that via Tatis, right? So if you have him at $10. The spot's probably going to earn 13 or 14. So you pay 12 and you get a little bit of a profit. That's the sort of thing how it works out.
The thing I don't like is that after a certain point, the shortstops get pretty nasty. We talked about how deep the position is, but it's kind of top heavy.
Yeah.
So I don't really love the replacement options you're looking at for Tatis in those first couple of months.
I think what you need to do is get yourself 2 shortstops early, and that's possible to do.
Yeah.
And then get a third baseman later, or there are ways to do it. The other thing, to be honest, though, I would not be surprised if a lot of the Tatis teams had him earmarked for the outfield.
Yeah, that's possible too.
With the shortstop outfield, and you're drafting and Bogarts or Seager or Swanson is like, you're looking at him. I already was shortstop. Wait, maybe I don't. Right? Maybe I can move Tatis to the outfield and get the top guy on my board. So
that's a drum you've been beating this offseason. I think that's smart. That's probably what you should be doing with guys like Trey Turner and Tatis.
At least have it in the thought process, right? So, but anyway, I mean, do you have Tatis? Do you have to do some little extra work? I don't think I've got him anywhere.
I have him in the SiriusXM Dynasty League where I have Acuna as well, so that's kind of troubling. But no, I don't really have much Tatis. So this pretty much crosses. I mean, it doesn't cross him off my list, but I actually have him outside the top 150. So I maybe end up being one of the lowest just because it's a risk. I know he was great playing through the shoulder last year, but risk can sap power. So I'm a little worried about that.
I may have him for too much playing time. I may need to knock some more. I knocked from 55 down to 50. I may have to cut him back some playing time even off of that.
I hear you. Well, earlier today, the Dodgers deal with Freddie Freeman was finalized. So he was out there looking sharp and I probably put pen to paper before, but it was officially announced today. And that team now just absolutely scary. And I mean, are you benching all opposing pitchers against the Dodgers this year? I mean, I don't think you can really expect to be able to, but if you can, I'd probably recommend it.
I mean, they're going to lose 60 games. They're going to lose 50 games. You just have to hope they're against your guys. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Things go up, things go down. If I'm in NL Tout Wars and I have Aaron Nola, for instance, I don't know. I'm not going to put him on the bench for one of my reserves because the reserves are terrible. If it's a mixed league and it's a chance to get Andrew Kittredge in, maybe I'll do that. You know what I mean? Not start a decent starter and get my third closer in for a week. Maybe that's in play. But I mean, you can't. I don't think you can. I don't know that you can manage. It depends on the top 3 starting pitchers. I'm probably leaving in, but I don't know that. Definitely be more judicious.
Yeah, just an all-star lineup you're going to have to navigate if you're an opposing pitcher going up against that team.
But I mean,
pretty scary. But
so last year, I mean, they had Seager. You're flip-flopping Seager for Freeman. What else am I missing? I mean, it was pretty good last year. I mean, so Freeman's better than Seager, but I mean, I don't know if it's enough that you're going to not use your regulars anymore.
I hear you. It just will be a matchup that strikes fear in your heart, at least, even if you end up deploying your starters. Clayton Kershaw, by the way, pitching at this very moment. I guess he's in the game. I don't know if he's actually on the bump this very second, but starting the spring opener against the Brewers today. So he's back with the Dodgers, claims to be 100% healthy, back on the field, but we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, I'm on him as in the streaming range, maybe SP4, SP5. I'm not on him any higher, and that could be a mistake because he's still pitching really well when he pitches.
Yeah, that's the big question. It's how long he will be able to pitch. But you actually had a good conversation with Will Carroll about the whole PRP injection thing. Like, I have it in my head that that's like a 4-letter word and you just giant red flag, but maybe it should be a yellow flag, PRP.
Yeah, it was on Twitter. And I had the same thought that you did, and I brought it up. I don't remember the exact tweet, but something to the effect of, I'm concerned about Kershaw, reported to have no UCL tear, but it's known he had a PRP. That, to me, that's a conflict. And he's like, why? And I said, well, every time I've ever read it, it's a precursor or a way to stave off Tommy John. And he said, well, no, almost everybody gets, when they have tenderness, gets the PRP, tenderness or inflammation. We just don't hear about it. So, okay. So apparently the injection is a lot more commonplace than is reported. And that makes sense. I guess that makes sense. And then then Will pretty much came out and said, no one knows how it works. It just does. And that, as a scientist, that kind of stinks. You want to know why. And we don't know why, but it works. So we're going to use it anyway.
It works. Sometimes it works temporarily, and you just delay the inevitable. But it does open my eyes a little bit that it's a little more commonplace than I realize, and not necessarily just delaying the inevitable with Tommy John. But definitely a word that's scary to me, and I'm with you. I still kind of think Kershaw is best in that streaming range, and I probably won't be paying for him as a rotation staple on my fantasy teams.
Right.
But while we're on this topic of the Dodgers and the Dodgers rotation specifically, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Trevor Bauer, because his administrative leave was extended. There was some confusion with Dave Roberts on the Rich Eisen show yesterday. Rich Eisen show had to delete a tweet and send out a correction as far as a quote from Dave Roberts. But Dave Roberts basically said that he doesn't expect Trevor Bauer on the team anytime soon. I guess the if ever at all was a little bit of a misleading quote, and that's, I think, what they kind of had to correct. But I do think if you're looking at Bauer as a guy from day one, you should probably scratch that plan.
I missed. I was doing things yesterday. I missed the whole Rich Eisen thing. You just caught me up a little bit. I'll do a little more research.
Well, let me tell you the tweet that was they sent out to correct things. Rich Eisen show on Twitter. This is the tweet. A previous tweet from our account characterizing Dave Roberts not expecting Bauer soon or, quote, if ever again, has been deleted. It was an inaccurate portrayal of Roberts' comments in an appearance on today's show, which can be heard in its entirety here. We regret the error. So the if ever again part seems like it was kind of misplaced, but the anytime soon is still in play.
I think ever again is in play, but he shouldn't have said it. Probably.
Yeah, I think you're dead on with that.
You know what? I think that's probably one of those things where, But I mean,
I bet the Dodgers camp and Rogers camp were kind of on Rich Eisen show to tweet that correction.
I mean, I'll be honest though. If I'm in a league where it's more than for fun, I will, if I feel as though he'll play, I will draft him. Maybe that's controversial. I don't know. I don't care. If it's a money league or an industry league, I'm not going to lose because somebody else drafted a player that's in the pool. I think I'd almost rather draft him and not use him. But that's not, So we're in some fun leagues too. Yeah. And I guess I'm going to guess the majority of people are in fun leagues, or the entry fee is such that it's not a huge deal. But I don't think he's going to play. So I'm not drafting him for that main reason. But I'm not going to be the holier than thou. I don't even want him on my team.
Marcelo,
and it's probably maybe I need to think that through. I don't know, but I also don't want to get beat by someone who is using him. So I'm not drafting the player. I'm drafting his stats. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, and it's easy to say right now. But if I was in a draft and he's from looking at him and someone else in my head, I'm probably going, please let me find someone else who is just as good so I can take him instead. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to wrestle with, kind of, because I'm with you. Like, if you can help my fantasy team, I'm not against taking him, but I don't know if he can. Like, there's just too much uncertainty right now for me to really be all over Bauer at his cost. And I actually, if I had to place a bet, I would bet that he does not ever pitch again for the Dodgers. I think he pitches again in Major League Baseball, but not for the Dodgers.
I guess I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if it's ever again. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Deshaun Watson.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Deshaun Watson could be playing football. There could be a trade. A trade announced. Well, football. There could be.
I actually just saw that before the show. He's going to Cleveland.
Oh, is he? Okay, so there won't be an emergency podcast and booting us out and coming in. But so I'm not equating the two of them either. But there's so much to talk about. Can we? I don't want to shirk the issue, but
we can move on.
I think we've made our points and we can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. The other piece of news I wanted to address before we get to your Beat Todd Zola League draft that took place last night.
All right,
Jack,
let's talk about Trevor Bauer, if that's the alternative.
Well, you don't want to talk about this team? It looks pretty darn good on the surface.
As we'll talk about, it was an uncomfortable team for me. So we'll get to that.
Yeah, the last bit was just about Jack Flaherty getting second opinion. Second opinion, like PRP, is like a red flag, but maybe PRP should be yellow. But anytime you hear second opinion, it is bright red flag because that means the first opinion didn't yield favorable results or favorable diagnosis for Jack Flaherty. So this is pretty darn scary for me. And really for the Cardinals too, beyond Jack Flaherty, it's kind of iffy in that rotation. So in a very winnable division, but if this turns out to be something serious, this could really set that team back.
I was off of Flaherty to begin with. He was on my prove it to me list. I'll lower him now, but he was off of my radar completely, just because the number of innings that he's thrown, the different issues that he's had. It's a shame because he looked like we should be talking about him as a first round pitcher when he first came up. That's the track he was on. It is kind of a shame, but hopefully, he's still young enough that he can get this all 26, get this all taken care of. We'll turn 27 in October. So he's still young enough. He can still have a good career, but let's get it cleaned up.
I guess I should have maybe seen this coming a little bit more because he returned at the end of last year, but only threw 2 1/3 innings, 4 Ks. And I guess with a guy who missed all that time, it's like, the offseason should help, but it's not a lock that time off's going to just get rid of the issue.
And I think we were a little bit optimistic because it wasn't like oblique is connected to the shoulder center, but it's some of the injuries weren't arm and shoulder, elbow and shoulder. He had some issues there too, but I think maybe it's not quite as bad. But it turned out it was.
Yeah, it's tough news for Jack Flaherty and the Cardinals. Well, we got to take care of some business real quick, so we'll get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back to talk about Todd's Beat Todd Zola draft in the online championship after these messages. Now we are back on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by WinBet. Clay Link here with Todd Zola. And Todd, the Beat Todd Zola draft, part of the RotoWire Online Championship last night. You said it was kind of uncomfortable for you. Can you elaborate a little bit before we get into specific players?
I cover myself with honey and a bunch of bees. No, that wasn't the uncomfort. I took Zach Wheeler, and that had me, I was okay with it in the 4th round, but we can talk about it, but it's just like, was that the right pick? And I'm like thinking about that the whole time and losing focus elsewhere. No, it kind of, the whole thing put me in a little bit of a different, and this is good. And this is why we suggest to do this purposely, is to get yourself out of your comfort zone, because it's going to happen during the course of the season. Mm-hmm. I got a lot. It's a recognizable team, but there's also some parts that I haven't gone down before, et cetera. But I didn't draft saves purposely, and I don't know if I went overboard with that this time. Ryan Roof seems to like it. At least he likes my speculative picks, the closer encounters from the site. So we'll have to see how that works out. But it's a trade league. It's a fab league. So 12-team fab league. I think there'll be opportunities to get the saves I need to compete. But I'd like to thank Peter Schenke and the managing council for letting me participate in this contest to represent RotoWire, and I'll work my butt off to get this team competitive.
Oh, I'm sure you will, and I'm glad you could do it, and you could be repping RotoWire in this online championship. It's funny because you usually come out a 12-team draft riding high, but you were not. That wasn't so much the case for you.
12 has been a weak spot for me, but I've liked what I've done in 12 so far. Because I knew that the RotoWire was going to be sort of my main NFBC league this year, the OLC. So I did a couple of 12-team draft championship leagues to get used to it. That was my prep because I guess I'm not in the main, so this is the big one for me. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm not uncomfortable with it. I'm not as comfortable as some of the other teams I've drafted, but that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, usually the teams I feel that way about are my better teams, and the teams that I'm like high on my own supply end up crap in the bed. But you were picking fourth in this 12-team 5x5 Roto League, scoring batting average. Juan Soto was your pick. Was there anybody else who even crossed your mind, or was that an auto snap call?
Yeah, it was snap. I mean, I had the top four. I mean, five would have been the place I started to think. Mm-hmm. I was hoping Bichette or Ramirez would fall to start off with the speed, but there's ways to build speed with Soto, and I think we're a little bit more optimistic that Soto will get a few pitches now with Nelson Cruz and Josh Bell and Cesar Hernandez. I think we're a little bit more optimistic about the top of that lineup than we may have been earlier.
Yeah, I think so too, with Cruz there. And I'm a little skeptical about Cruz, but man, Tropicana field is tough to hit in, so maybe that played a part in Cruz's season. And yeah, Turner, Bichette, Ramirez, the top three picks. That's higher than I've ever seen Bichette go. But do you think maybe in like mains and drafts to come that Bichette inside the top three becomes kind of commonplace, just given the steals?
Well, and Tatis is no longer there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So someone has to move up.
Yeah.
So I would. I mean, if you want steals, it's between Bichette and Ramirez, right?
Yeah.
So I prefer Ramirez at that spot. Get rid of third base. If I had the number 2 spot, I would have taken Ramirez. But if I had the number 3 and those were gone, Bichette would be my. I guess I'm Turner, Ramirez, Bichette is my current top 3.
I'm a little surprised to see Acuna still in the first round. He went 10th. Could be ready at some point in April, but it sounds like maybe only DHing in April. So not a first round guy for me at this point.
Well, I'm looking over that team, and that seems to be I want to win it all or come in last type of a construct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine.
Storybooks. Yeah, it's fine if you want to go that route.
Yeah. So I think that might feed into it. And later on, Chris Sale, Craig Kimbrell. So I think
Bryant,
So I think this, and Robbie Ray. I think this is I want to win everything. If I finish in last, so be it. And like I said, I mean that's fine. I mean
that's viable. If you want to play that game, I totally understand it. Yeah. You followed up Soto with Freddie Freeman. So your first 2 picks, you don't get a lot of speed. Then you don't get a lot of speed either with Bogart. So you went with the 3 hitters, and you didn't come out with a lot of speed. Do you kind of regret that?
I do at this point, no. Yeah. And I spoiler alert, did not draft Miles Straw, which I actually would have, but he went a little, I don't want to say sniped, but I was working on Miles Straw construct. But I think I snuck out enough speed to compete. It's going to take Jonathan VR to get me 20 steals, but I think I have enough. And when your first stolen base guy is your catcher, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's not usually a build that you see often, but yeah, Dalton Varsho, pick in the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th round in this 12-team. Should get you some bags. I'm wondering if you have enough, but maybe you do. I think it's at least maybe you can finagle this and add a little bit and at least finish like mid-pack in stolen bases.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on who I end up using. I mean, Varsho gets whatever, 10, 12. Danby Swanson gets 10 or 12. I mentioned VR. Colton Wong can get 15 or 20. And it's Soto, Freeman, and Bogarts, between the three of them will get maybe 15. I think, and then Kettle Marte. So I think middle of the pack is there. Whether I get more is a question. And if VR is a 0, then I fall. And the middle is usually bunched. And I even say a Suzuki could get 10 or 15. So I think I did build the foundation, and I did not take a chance on the Tampa guy in Vito Brujan. I've been taking chances on guys like Jose Siri, late chances of that nature. I did not take any of those chances because in a 12-team league, I think there'll be some guys that emerge if I need it to help out with the steals.
Nice. Well, I think your kind of anecdote about Miles Straw is good, though, because it provides a little bit of a lesson. Like, even if you like Miles Straw, I don't, but even if you do, there's only one Miles Straw in the pool. So you need to have plan A, B, C, and D when it comes to speed. And
yeah,
you got to have a lot of contributors. I kind of like the VR pick. It's you went Suzuki, DeSclafani was sandwiched in between, but then VR. So 2 new Cubs additions there. And I think you don't bring VR in to just be a stationary guy on the bases. I think he'll probably get to 20, even if that skill is diminishing.
Yeah, so I took him 17th in an A league, and I think he's actually filled my corner. So, and I did take, Rowdy Tellez later, who may actually be my utility, but I do have some other batters. So if I don't need the speed, I mean, I try to, I can use a power guy instead with Tellez. But I actually think I have him placed at corner at that point, third base. So, and I think of the 17th round in the 12-team league, it's churn. Somebody, and maybe if I use Tellez at corner, he's now my utility, right? So I should be able to find something there.
It's interesting that you got Matt Chapman and then Suzuki, VR. Seems like and McCutcheon as well. Seems like you got a lot of guys. Yeah, Freeman. So you got some guys who just recently signed. It seemed like there was that little pocket of value just because they were without a team for a while.
I ran my numbers.
Still there.
Yeah, I ran my numbers, and I think you're right. It wasn't by plan. It wasn't by design. But I kind of late last night when I was looking over, I was like, I drafted 2 guys. I drafted 6 guys that were just moving, whatever. And I think did they all move into better scenarios? I
Chapman
think
did. And...
yeah, I think you can say they all moved into better scenarios. McCutcheon for sure. So the only, the other thing about this team, the uncomfortable nature was I took my no save. I didn't even go Barlow and Bednar in this one. I took my no saves to an extreme. Again,
Kittredge and Alcala, Sulcer, but none of those guys are like 1A closers.
Yeah, and Fulmer. And I missed out on Suarez. I was like, how long can I wait on he just got drafted? So it's like trying to figure out when I wanted to take Robert Suarez, and somebody took him at that point. So it just kind of a bummer. I think Fulmer, I just think he's better than Soto. And that's a team I think is going to get some saves. Alcala is all Ryan Roof. And Sulcer, the last note was that Tyler Wells is going to be stretched out. I was on Tyler Wells as a closer. But the last note, or a recent note, had him being stretched out. So it's like, I mean, it's Sulcer. The thing about the numbers the peripherals aren't terrible. So if he's not getting saves, he's not a terrible guy to put in there. So, like I said, I'm planning on churning. I don't remember where Matt Barnes went, but Alex Cora came out and said they may not have a real closer, and they just said that with LA with Trinan. So I think there will be scenarios where I will be able to pick up enough saves to compete.
Are they stretching Garrett Whitlock out, by the way?
Initially, they're stretching both Red Sox, Houck and Whitlock.
Okay.
I mean, now with Chris Sale on the shelf,
I think
Houck gets a better chance to start early. and I actually picked him up. I don't know. I think Whitlock's still probably more, especially if they're going to use matchups. I mean, Whitlock's the guy that you can go 2 innings with. I think if they're playing, and then we just push Barnes to the 9th because you're giving Whitlock the 7th and 8th because the 7th inning was tough or something like that. I don't know. But, the Wheeler pick was tough because I'm trying to, I think the news is pretty good as far as, I don't think there's a residual injury, but sometimes these things turn out to be, lingering. So I thought the discount, almost at the end of the 4th round. So that's 36. It would have been like the 48th pick or whatever it might be. I thought that was enough of a discount on Wheeler to take the chance. And there really wasn't anybody else. I wasn't going to push Logan Webb up to that spot. And I really didn't, I'm looking at some of the other names. I was considering Will Smith, but I just thought, you know what, let's, I think the discount is here and I'm confident enough that it'll be okay. But I was I was not so much buyer's remorse, but I was second guessing myself the entire draft.
I hear you. I think that's about the point to let the slide end and take Wheeler. But yeah, I could see that being just the uncertainty, like kind of a tough pill to swallow and really feel great about the top of your staff. You did follow up Logan Webb and Kevin Gausman.
I'm contractually obligated to take those two.
I like it though. You're kind of the guy on Gausman still, and not that people are out on him like hard, but seems like people are a little hesitant to take him off the career year.
Well, with Chapman though, now with Chapman, I'm a little happier. Now the pick before the next pick was Kettle Marte. And no. I don't want to talk that. Montas, you mentioned Montas.
Yeah, Montas.
That was I got 3 seconds left. He was like my high. I didn't really want a pitcher there, but look at the 2 names previous, 2 guys that I've drafted a lot, Brian Reynolds and JD Martinez. I was just sure I was take whichever one of those lasts I will take, and I was just not prepared for the next, and I would have taken Gallegos, but the news came out that St. Louis might not be, doing the full-time closer thing. Although I picked him in a league the other night with Gallegos. So I just kind of got caught, kind of got burned. But you will notice after I took Montas when I didn't really want to. I mean, he was fine there. I just didn't want a pitcher yet. I just went hitter, 5 or 6 hitters in a row to kind of make up for it. But I made 2 mistakes. I probably made 30 mistakes, but Montas there, and I did mention Kettle Marte. I should have taken Chris Bryant, who went up to about 8 picks later. But I mean, that's a lot. Well, not really. It's not that much. But I should have taken Chris Bryant, fill the third base spot, knowing I'll get a second baseman later, and I had him worthy of that spot, but I just kind of forgot and just went for Marte, and I should have gone for Bryant.
Yeah, Bryant in the 7th seems a little surprising given that this draft took place after the news of him.
Yeah.
Colorado, I expect to see the price higher than that in most drafts.
I think it's going to be higher. It would have been 6 or 8 picks higher had Bonehead been on his game, but I think he will go up.
Yeah, I got some FOMO on Brian in the drafts I've done because I don't have him anywhere, but I think it'll probably change. And Montas, I think everybody's assuming he's getting dealt.
Well, that's the thing too.
So that'll be a big part of where he lands.
Yeah. A couple of the teams that I heard weren't bad, but we'll see where he ends. I mean, it's going to be a park downgrade more than likely, but the context of the team and everything else may be okay. We'll see.
Well, we got to take a quick break here. Hope you'll stick with us, and we'll get back to the baseball after these reads here. WynnBET is now the exclusive sponsor for RotoWire's Fantasy Podcast. WynnBET brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, moneyline bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, and so much more at your fingertips. Want a break from sports betting? Head into WynnBET's digital casino and take a spin on roulette, double down in blackjack, slam the slots, or try your hand at baccarat. WynnBET is currently available in 9 states: Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia, while rapidly expanding. WynnBET, the possibilities are limitless. Register for WynnBET today. Make a qualifying deposit and wager to receive $200 in free bets. Promotion may vary by state. Download WynnBET now. That's WYNNBET. WynnBET, the exclusive partner for RotoWire's fantasy podcasts. Also, experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is an exciting player prop fantasy contest. With Thrive Fantasy, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on only the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Sign up for Thrive Fantasy today and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. That'll get you through the baseball season essentially. And here's how you can claim your free RotoWire subscription. Visit rotowire.com/thrive. Deposit a minimum of $10 and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Then finally, play in your first paid contest and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Also, do you think your betting skills are good enough to win you tickets to the Final Four? It's time to put your money where your mouth is. Better Edge is giving away a trip for 2 to the Final Four in New Orleans. All you have to do is join their contest at betteredge.com/Final Four. Better Edge believes sports betting with no fees should be the norm, and odds are it's legal in your state. Check it out and enter their March Madness contest for a chance to win a trip to the Final Four. Head on over to betteredge.com/Final Four. That's BETTOR edge.com/Final Four. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Todd, back to your Beat Todd Zola draft here. Took place on Thursday night again. A lot of your guys, and Colton Wong, Bailey Ober, a lot of Todd guys. Even Mark Cann, I think, kind of fits that mold. And Drew Rasmussen. Rasmussen, I've heard it pronounced a couple ways. Probably looked that up. We had a caller on XM today about him, and I kind of said he had like the Ranger Suarez type year where you just so much better in the starting role, kind of bucked the trend that you usually see with, it's just typically harder to fill a starting role, turn the lineup over multiple times. But maybe he's a unicorn and the Rays like extract value out of these guys. And maybe I need to be getting some Drew Rasmussen. What's the case that you have for him?
You kind of alluded to it. Tampa finds ways to get the most out of arms of this nature. And they saw something in him. They went out and got him, and he pitched pretty darn well. He's the kind of guy that I hope I hear that he's the what are we calling it? The primary pitcher or the bulk pitcher. I hope that somebody opens for him and he pitches 3 1/3 or 3 2/3 and gets a win. So he definitely picked up in the streaming range. Tampa Bay, I love the park. I love where he's going to pitch, and we've got him 3rd as a starter. Maybe he does start. Maybe Tampa doesn't play those games, but they've got Matt Whistler. They've got a few guys that they can use to open. So to me, he's a streamer.
Yeah, he's so hard to figure out because he throws hard, but he really only throws 2 pitches. So I don't know how he had so much success as a starter. Now, not having a real 3rd pitch isn't like a death sentence for a starter, but fastball slider, that's typically a bullpen repertoire, and curveball change very seldom used.
I mean, your concerns are warranted. I mean, his last 4 games in September were 5 innings, and he only gave up three runs total. So that's 3 runs in 20 innings. Okay, that's wonderful. But he only fanned 10 in those 20 innings. He only walked 2. So, if I'm hoping he goes 3 or 4 or 5 innings, I'm getting 3 or 4 strikeouts. So I'm kind of hoping to get the ratios in a win because he won 3 of those last 4 games. So, which is why he's in the streaming range. And it is a fab league. If things aren't working out, bye Rasmussen.
While we're on the topic of the Rays rotation, let me just ask you about a guy. You didn't draft him, but James has been drafting him all over the place, and that's I'm sorry, I totally blanked on his name. Corey, what's his last name? Kluber, of course.
The kid trying
Former
to make a name
Cy
for himself. Yeah.
I had brain for it there. What do you think? Are you ending up with Kluber for one? And do you think there's reason to be optimistic about him and the Rays' magic touch?
That again, that's the answer. I don't think. I mean, I have no strong feelings either way. I'm not avoiding him and I'm not chasing him. I just don't think I've landed on him yet. Looking at the reading between the tea leaves and what he did, and I think that there's a potential there, but it wasn't. To me, it wasn't anybody. It wasn't worth targeting. But I'm also not avoiding him. So. We're all, that's what, I mean, we all have our strengths and weaknesses in analysis, etc. And I kind of noticed this talking to Jeff Erickson in our shows early this week. Once we get down to the, do you think so-and-so is going to get hurt or who's going to be closing? I mean, we're all equal in that range.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all the same.
We're all guessing.
Yeah. None of my spreadsheets can tell me that. So I think what was, he put me on the spot. But I was downgrading somebody because of injury and not downgrading another. And it's like, that's just the way I feel. But that doesn't feel, you can't, that's just not a good enough of an
No way to
answer.
quantify feel.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was Ronald Acuna and another batter that I wasn't downgrading. And just like, they both had to be, and he's right. He was 100% right. You should, what's good for the goose, good for the gander. They know they both need to go the same process, the same analysis, the same, sort of judgment. But yet I had a feel about one that I didn't have for the other. And that's fine, because by myself as a drafter, but when I get paid to explain things, I think it was Yordan Alvarez. It was Yordan Alvarez and Mike Trout is what it was, now that I think about it. And that I was downgrading Trout a little bit, but not downgrading Alvarez. And, it actually made me think, was that right? I just, maybe it's the upside of Alvarez. I don't know. But that was the question. And shouldn't they both be, if you're going to downgrade Trout, shouldn't I have downgraded Alvarez? And yes,
that's a fair question.
Yes, I should have, but I didn't. So that,
Alvarez had those knees surgically repaired, right?
Right. But he
but
did.
You worry about it being a chronic issue.
Yeah. So again, though, I mean, we all have our what we do, did what we don't do good. That's it. I think I don't think anybody. I think the part about that Jeff is mentioning is you should to be consistent within your aloofness.
I like that. That's well put. Back to Corey Kluber just for a second. It's never great to be on the opposite side of James. You usually end up with egg on your face looking stupid, but I just don't see it with Kluber. I mean, 80 innings last year, he was all right. But then, 36 and 2/3 combined the previous 2 years, and the whip has been high when on the field lately. So, yeah, that's an appeal to authority thing that I can't really get behind Kluber, even though the Rays, I typically am in favor of appealing to authority when it comes to the Rays. But Kluber, I'm just having a hard time with it at his age. The rest of your beat Todd Zola roster, Alcala, you mentioned he's a Ryan Roof spec. He may be stretched out, which maybe wouldn't be the worst thing for his value and wouldn't be the worst things for the Twins. His easiest path is stardom's in the bullpen, where I think he could run with that job, but I don't think it'd be a bad call for the Twins to give him another shot at starting. Connor Joe, you've been all over him. And then Cole Calhoun, he clears the bar for a reserve spot in a 12-teamer.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're both gone early on, but it remains to be seen how much Joe plays with the acquisition of Chris Bryant playing the outfield. Mm-hmm. I should have looked at the schedule. At one point I did, and I liked Joe early because of the early schedule, but now it's a little bit different. I mean, if your plan is to platoon out, if your plan is to use the reserves or the free agents throughout the course of a year in a 12-teamer to stream into a spot, you should draft that way. You should just don't draft that player. Draft your first or second week streamer. So at one point I had Joe in mind as someone I wanted to use in that manner. I should have gone back and looked at the schedule again to see where Colorado opens, because keeping in mind it's an NFBC league, and you can do all these games until you start to get guys get hurt, and you no longer have enough roster spots to manage like you originally intended.
I hear you. Alex Colomé, by the way, he went right before the reserve. So there's a new, guy who's closed for a long time, and now looks like he'll get another chance to close in Colorado. But I'm a little surprised. Maybe I'm just not seeing him, but I do not see Art Warren going in this.
Yeah.
Surprised me a little bit. I know the Reds are a headache, but Lucas Sims is behind. He claims to be healthy, but he's behind.
Yeah. He was on the list. I think we have a preseason fab. I may even go down that road. Come to think of it, I don't know. Yeah. So just taking a look, the Rockies started home. It's against the Dodgers, against some tough pitchers, but it's just kind of a way to get the Rockies in there for that short Thursday series, and then play it by later. But I'm clicking on the thing that says later on my website, looking at the schedule. Like, do you want to buy tickets? Later. So I said later. Anyway, now I forget the question.
Well, I was asking about the Red situation, but yeah, no,
no wonder I forgot the question. Yeah,
to me, probably more so than anything, a case for drafting early.
This closers. I hate to say, I'm going to bum you out right now. I'm really going to bum you out right now. But I had a shot between Cole Sulser and Warren, and I went for the Orioles closer.
Well, I hear you, and especially if they bring in Correa, that'd probably be the right move. Art Warren's got pretty interesting numbers. The Lucas Sims situation is tough to read, though, because it seems like contradictory messages from him and the team. He says he's all clear, but he's behind. And it's just weird that the player and the team don't really seem to be on the same page. Maybe they're just slow playing him after last year's injuries, but
maybe.
I do think maybe this creates an opportunity for somebody else to
maybe
be the 1A closer. I'm a little disappointed you didn't get your guy, Robert Suarez. Seems like you get him in every league, but
that was a third mistake.
You can't have him everywhere.
He went in the 21st round. That's
earlier than I think I've ever seen.
In a 12-team league in the 21st round?
Yeah.
And I was actually beginning to think when I wanted to get him. I would not have taken him in the 21st. They ended up with Joe Ryan there. I would not have taken him at that point. But that was when I was beginning. Let's put him on my queue so I don't forget about him. That was the sort of thinking there.
Zach Greinke went in the reserves. Did you consider him at all now that he's back in KC, or not really?
No, I didn't. Again, I'm not dismissing him, but I think I don't like what I saw, at least by the numbers in his last year. The whole joke, I want to be 1 year too early, 1 year too late, whatever it is. And with Greinke, last year was finally the year that it caught up. And I don't know about a bounce back. I just maybe call it my profile and remind myself what I wrote about it. But I remember I was not that optimistic. I did not really see anything to hang my hat on. And he's kind of old too. So, easy for me to say whatever, but I'm 20 years older than he is, and I'm calling him kind of old. But
well, anyway. 38 is kind of old for a major league pitcher.
So is 58. Anyway.
But yeah, I kind of in on Greinke, but I definitely get it. The K's just fell off dramatically last year.
So my note has his curveball lacking vertical break, therefore hanging. So, and that would led to all the homers. So is that correctable? Sure. But I don't know. I just wasn't comfortable. I like Kansas City as a landing point, but I've got him. I don't have him as a terrible ERA, 4.18 with a 1.25 WHIP. That's playable. I have him $3 in a mix 15, so that's 22nd, 23rd round. Well, that's 20th or 21st round, but I just didn't end up with him.
Well, as we wrap things up today, I just wondered if there was one that got away. Was there a pick that? Well, you said Chris Bryant, but was there another one that you kind of regretted passing on?
Suarez, but that was, again, it wasn't. I wouldn't have taken him right away, though. I wouldn't have taken him right away. Was there one that there were a couple of snipes, but I don't recall any that I wish I had, taken somebody else when I did take the guy that I ended up taking. I mean, there were a couple of players that just kind of went just a little bit after where I was planning on, but no, I mean, well, isn't two guys? I already have two. I shouldn't have more than two.
Then finally, we just had a question in the chat. Kind of a good question because we never really talk about them, or I don't really think we have much on the show. But Josiah Gray going over to Washington should have opportunity. Probably more bumps in the road though, and I need to see more myself.
I think I still have optimism. I mean, he's no spring chicken. He just turned 24. I think I have optimism long term, but I'm tempering expectation. This I think there's adjustments to be made, but I think he can make them. And most the home runs crushed him. I'm looking at the strikeout numbers, and they were pretty strong. If he can figure out a way to keep the ball in the yard, I like him. But it might not be overnight. And that's one of those things where it might take a little finagling with the pitching and getting on the same page with Ruiz. Maybe Ruiz helps him out. I'm not giving up in a dynasty league, but I'm not jumping at him this year.
I'm exactly there with you. He took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, the fact that he had a 1.36 whip last year, despite 33 walks and 70 2/3 innings, speaks to how good the stuff is and can be, and how he can naturally kind of get himself out of the jams he creates, but still shoots himself a little too much in the foot with the walks. And that'll be a problem still.
Minor league career, though, he only gave up 7 homers in. Can we total up the minor league innings? I don't know at this point. Yeah, we can total them up, but
7 homers total
in 198 innings.
That's crazy.
So that's like a full season. That's like, a major league pitcher, if he gives up 28 homers in 198 innings, sure, okay. So he was able to control limiting the fly ball, limiting the home runs in the minor league. So there's the promise. Although he was always a little old. He was not so much. That whole pandemic year and guys not playing throws off the whole age for the level thing.
Yeah,
when you kind of
throws
eyeball
out
it.
So many things.
Yeah, you kind of eyeball it. It's like he should have been. Wait, he didn't pit. He couldn't have. He should have been 22 that year. But but the pandemic year, so he was 23. So he wasn't really old for the level. He flew through 3 levels when he was 2019 with very limited homers. And then in AAA, it was 15 innings. You have 3. That's not good. So that's going to be the key. And Washington is a park that gives up home runs. So we'll see.
One last thing, just while we're on the topic of the Nationals, I started thinking about this, and they signed Sean Doolittle. Now, I know he's been pretty bad the past few years, but I was thinking about, I didn't really agree with some of the analysis in our note, and I thought about it. I thought about deleting part of it, about him being behind, Tanner Rainey, Kyle Finnegan, and Cishek for saves. But then I thought, I don't know. I have no clue. So I'll just leave it. I kind of actually see him as maybe the favorite to close, even with his issues the past few years. I think Tanner Rainey, Kyle Finnegan, and Steve Cishek.
I think he's the favorite to get a shot. I think they'll give him a chance. I do think that Doolittle does warrant.
Because he has a history with that team too.
Yeah, he warrants an opportunity. He did fan 53 and 49 and 2/3 last year. Not fantastic, but he was
quite a bit better after going to Seattle, I believe.
Yeah, from Cincinnati to Seattle.
Yeah, his numbers with Seattle were not that bad.
Right. So I think he'll get an opportunity. Whether he can stay healthy, who's to say? But I think he will get a chance. And I mean, this is a scenario when I'm playing the games as far as trying to find a closer. I haven't ventured into this scenario at all.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't spec'd on any of these guys, but maybe Doolittle if I really have to in some spot. I could see maybe taking that chance. Tanner Rainey's all over the map. Finnegan and Cishek don't do much for me, so I could see maybe another late run as a closer for Doolittle. Used to be, one of the game's best. He's far from that now, but
right.
He can still pump it in and limit the walks and do pretty well. So we'll see about the closer in Washington. Anything else on your mind today, Todd? I thought this was a good show.
Tout Wars is on my mind. Oh,
yeah.
Man, Tout Wars is on my mind. Yeah, because in one draft and monitoring the other. So, yeah, a lot of work to do this weekend. Saturday morning AL. So who from the site? Jeff's in the AL, right?
That sounds right.
I think Jeff.
Not exactly sure.
I think Colette's in the AL as well. Okay. Mixed. You have anybody in mixed? We used to have DVR, so I'm not so sure. I don't think anybody from the site's in the mixed auction.
That one's tomorrow afternoon. That's the one I'll be calling on the Zoom. Right. So stop by and hang if you want.
Yeah, I think DVR used to have that spot, and I don't know that we replaced. Then NL only is Sunday morning, and I'm in that. And then you get the head-to-head in the afternoon.
Yeah, head-to-head points. I am a diehard roto guy, but I've grown to love this head-to-head points league for baseball. It's a different format that I'm not as used to, but I'm learning and having a lot of fun. And maybe we can spend some time next week on the show, Todd, talking about points leagues and head-to-head points in particular. But great stuff. Try to be good to yourself this Tout Wars weekend, Todd. Don't push yourself too hard, and hopefully all you guys.
Too late.
Well, be good to yourself, man. And that applies to all of you out there as well. We'll be back, Todd and I, every Friday on the pod, getting you set for the start of the season. Hope you'll join us again next week here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, sponsored by WinBet.